What's up, Huskies? Welcome back to episode 4 of On the Big Screen. My name is Sofia Azevedo,
My name is Ben Parmalee.
and today we'll be discussing Predator Badlands.
Predator Badlands is a 2025 film, and in it we see a new take on the Predator franchise following an outcast of the Yautja species who goes to a dangerous planet on a journey for revenge against his father. So, what did you think?
I honestly had really low expectations walking into this movie because this kind of sci-fi fantasy action movie is one of my least favorite genres, but I actually walked out of the theater really loving the movie. I loved what they did with it, and I think as a standalone movie, it was honestly really sweet and funny at times.
Meanwhile, I had super high expectations because I saw the last entry in the franchise, Prey, that came out in like 2022, and I really loved that movie. However, there's no point in seeing that before. It's just completely standalone. So if you know nothing about Predator or Alien or anything about that, you can still enjoy this movie, and I think that's really great.
I agree. I think people who are long-standing fans of the franchise and have seen all the other movies were kind of critiquing this movie because it was PG-13 and it was a little bit more wholesome found family trope and not just pure violence, and they were kind of mad about that. But I do think that you don't really come to a movie just to see action and no plot or character development.
I feel like it's like before you watch it, you might think, oh, I want my Predator movie to be all blood, gory, and scary like the original and all the other entries. But once you actually come out of this theater, you're like, okay, this actually was good for being PG-13 and not leaning into those horror elements. It was more action and actually had some like family themes and messages that the other ones don't really have when it's just about like surviving and killing.
Right. And then there were still pretty good action shots. Like there was a shot where the Yautja split a huge, creature in half with his sword, which is still really cool. So I think it definitely took the best of best worlds. But I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on the world in this movie? Because I think the creativity with the creatures, with the languages, with everything was just so out of pocket. I loved it so much.
There was a lot of creativity. Like if you've seen Avatar, like the world of Pandora, it's kind of like similar in all this like outlandish alien fun stuff. And I think their designs, their world building is really cool. However, when I was watching this movie, like midway through, I was like, okay, if this entire movie is just about him exploring a planet and like surviving the wilderness, that might end up being boring. But it ended up being more than that, having some like robot corporation elements that it's not just Predator versus the wild and nature.
Right. For some really strange reason, this reminded me oddly of Star Wars because of that like group of people, like robot android people that kind of reminded me of like the big bad corporation versus the native people. But it was definitely really cool to see that.
Oh yeah, and that's also how they got away with the PG-13 rating. Instead of the Predator massacring humans, he's massacring robots. So you get that action without all the blood and guts.
Oh, that's a good point.
Furthermore, there's like a baby Yoda sidekick that's like all cutesy, and hearing that, you're like, what the heck? This is a Predator movie. But this creature, who's pretty cute, actually ends up being like one of my favorite parts of the movie. And I can't wait to like see if they expand on that in a further movie.
I agree. That was really adorable. I do love that in this movie, we see a found family trope of this outcast that is outcasted from his clan and is trying to avenge his clan and kind of prove his worth to them. And in doing so, he finds his own clan, his own family that means a lot more to him and is much more loyal. And he kind of goes from this person who's taught that any feeling is weakness, anything that's not strong is weakness. You can't do anything. You can't feel sad. You can't grieve. And he goes from that and he goes to someone who knows what it means to choose friends and family over glory. And I think that's really good character development from the Yautja monster perspective.
I think, yeah, that's really important because at first I thought I was going to like really dive into the culture of the Yautja and like how, their hierarchy, their beliefs, their ideas and all the craziness. But it ended up being a rejection of that, and instead expanding upon like the family and the softer moments that the rest of his species doesn't really have.
Another aspect I loved about this movie was that they did incorporate humor into the dialogue, and you kind of see this group of people start as not mean towards each other, but a little bit reserved, and then you kind of see them start developing jokes with each other. They start relying on each other and helping each other either defeat an enemy or, unpack things. Like you see the Yautja starting to share more of his feelings with Thea when they're traveling together. Thea's helping the Yautja understand the world. And I think the jokes here and there definitely made the movie a little bit less just pure action on the surface.
Because there is a lot of scenes where the Yautja and Thea are just like by a campfire talking and really like expanding their personalities. And I feel like that's really important because if it's just an hour and 40 minutes of fighting, granted, the fighting scenes are great, but they have those scenes that really expand the world and these characters, and they're really important.
This is kind of similar to our previous episode where we discussed The Long Walk, where the strong, powerful scenes where people were being shot and people were dying were only powerful and only hit hard because they were juxtaposed by the scenes where they were just talking and they were becoming friends and sharing their lives and their stories. So I feel like in an action movie or a horror movie of that nature, you still need soft moments to make those impactful moments actually hit they're supposed to.
Because if it was an hour and 40 minutes of the yacht just splitting animals in half and cool, dramatic, slow shots, like it's going to get boring. However, it's like all this build up and then you see those really cool scenes and it's like, wow, it has that punch and it pays off.
All things considered, what would you rate this movie out of 10? And would you suggest people to see it on the big screen?
Talking about the big screen part first. Yes, it's an action movie. It's amplified by the fact that it's on a big screen. It's like the perfect movie to sit like near the front and just be completely immersed in this movie. And for a rating, I would say it's like maybe a 7.6. That's kind of like my ideal, like, oh, this is a good movie. It's not like something crazy. There's no insane message. It's face value. It's really entertaining and you will most likely enjoy it.
I 100% agree. I think action movies inherently do better in a big screen in a theater where it's dark and you are, like you said, immersed in the movie. However, I think this movie deserves a higher than a 6 out of 10 rating, but I think that's still what I'm going to give it because while it was a good movie, I do think it was pretty surface level and the messages of the movie were pretty obvious and there wasn't a lot of thinking involved, which I think is good. You can go to a movie, you don't have to think about it too much, don't have to keep track of anything. It's really just a enjoy it while it lasts. But when you walk out of the theater, you don't take away anything of value from the movie, if that makes sense.
This probably sounds bad, but you'll probably enjoy it more if you're eating popcorn the whole time and just chewing and having fun.
Unlike a movie that is considered action and sci-fi that is kind of similar to this movie, which is Interstellar, I feel like that is an action sci-fi space movie that is good on the big screen. But when I walked out of that movie, I did take something away from it. I thought it was a phenomenal movie. I thought they did the directing, the cinematography very well. So it had a lasting effect. So I feel like action movies do have that potential and this one didn't fulfill it.
I actually like how they didn't try to shoehorn in a crazy message. I feel like it's important that we do have movies that are literally face value and are literally just for entertainment, yet are also still well made and completely enjoyable. So I like that it was what it was and didn't try to be anything else. All right, that's it for today's review, and we'll catch you next time when we review 28 years later, The Bone Temple.